gaming room of doom. The last episode of Game-Rave TV for 2017 tackles the Living History project as it closes out the year of our Lord PlayStation, 1997. Sony's little system that obviously could had a fantastic freshman year and an impressive sophomore offering, but it's here in the junior year that the foundation for the next 20 years of gaming will be built. There are 10 total games that will be in play for this list, and it's important to point out that these choices are not based on personal preference. Rather, the impact they had on the system at the time and what it meant for the future of the system and brand. For this year, only the top 3 games are in a specific order. The rest are all on equal footing. Before we get to this list, there are a few honorable mentions that need to be addressed first. Right out of the gate, Ghost in the Shell solidified that anime in its actual Japanese art style form was finally here to stay. From the original anime artwork on Wild Arms and future releases like Psychic Force, Persona 2, and Dragon Ball Ultimate 22, all keeping their original homegrown assets, Ghost in the Shell made permanent what Dragon Ball GT only hinted at. The realm of Japanese role-playing games and anime-related adventures were finally able to be who they really were, rather than being horribly disguised or graphically changed. Gunbird not included. Sentient, though now an obscure and long-forgotten title, showed just how much freedom and experimentation developers were willing to go through to bring fresh experiences to the platform. Though Sentient's sentence-forming structure and expression-driven systems seem wholly archaic now, it paved the way for some of gaming's most impressive morality choice-driven games, like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, the Telltale games, and more. Last on the runner-ups is Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. No stranger to this program, Puzzle Fighter proved that not only were puzzle games still alive and literally kicking, but there was still plenty of room to add things to them or spruce them up with item unlocks. In a present-day world where such bonuses are now nickel and dimed out of you or locked behind a season pass, it felt good knowing that back in the day you had your full game on the disc and could actually work for your bonus items instead of paying for them. Alright, it's time for the top 10 games of 1997. Can you guess which ones we picked? These are in no particular order except for the last 3 games, and those 3 had the most profound impact for the year and more. Number 10, Tomb Raider 2. The original adventures of Lara Croft did wonders for the world of gaming, as well as being on Game-Rave TV's 1996 top 10 list. Besides presenting a strong female lead character not seen since Samus Aran, Cora's adventure game created a cult phenomenon that at the time could not be stopped. Her sequel cemented that following with new items, all new levels, and vehicles that kept the action fresh and the pace frantic. Despite hitting some severe low points during the PlayStation 2 era, Lara nevertheless prevailed under Crystal Dynamics' rebooted guidance and continues to be a force to be reckoned with 20 years to go. Coming in at the number 9 spot is Bushido Blade. While the term open world gets thrown around in every other modern-day game release, such a concept was a hard sell in the 90s console days. Squaresoft, having shattered the gaming community with their PlayStation exclusivity, blew fighting game fans out of the water with their open-world, genre-defining fighting game. If you've never ever played it, know that there are no health bars or super moves, just 3 attack stances, the chance for a one-hit kill, broken limbs, and the ability to run like hell away from the opposition. Bushido Blade's stages were all 3D and were all connected into one giant world, almost in the same sense how Halo Reach's Forge World was multiple arenas in one giant event. To this day, it's a sight to behold and play. It may never have made it past the single sequel, but what it did and when it originally did it is still an incredible memory. In the number 8 spot is NFL Game Day 98. Yep, the series returns from sneaking in at the bottom spot in our 1995 game list. With no real rival to the Madden franchise, EA Sports suddenly had their hands full with Sony's newest follow-up, and the resulting cross-town rivalry would send shockwaves through the industry. You have to understand, saying you're going to take on Madden would be like threatening to take on a Nintendo portable system. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose bad. Sony not only didn't lose, but they actually turned the tide for a short while. It actually wouldn't be until Sony's abysmal freshman PlayStation 2 entry into the Game Day series that EA Sports would once again gain their throne. At least, they had it until a certain old developer friend came along. Coming up in the 7th slot is a personal favorite that I never got a chance to truly dive into, Monster Rancher. If Game Day stepped up the sports genre and Bushido Blade the uniqueness angle, Monster Rancher damn near blew the creative content game genre's roof off. As mentioned in our 20th anniversary video way back, Monster Rancher allowed the creation of in-game creatures using real-world compact discs. It didn't matter if it was PlayStation, Saturn, Music, Blank, or any other disc. If the PlayStation could read it, there was a monster inside of it. This ability to create at will, along with the anticipation of what could be hiding on your shelves, created a whole new genre of item collecting. While the US really only saw a handful of Monster Rancher games and a couple of other releases on the PlayStation 2 use this feature, Japan got more than double the amount. While the modern world of games have all but removed this random functionality in favor of loot boxes, no loot box will ever replace the time the then Game-Rave fanzine staff cataloged over 200 CDs into an Excel file in one night. Number 6 gets attached to the other creative giant when it came to literal creation. Armored Core. On the surface, it was a third-person shooter with giant robots. Get beneath that first layer of metal, however, and you were swimming in a customizer's wet dream. Giving players the ability to earn new body parts, swapping in whichever kits their hearts desired, and then adding in both a versus mode and link cable support was the creme de la creme. Armored Core opened up a whole new league of fan support and enthusiasm. So much so that at the time, Tips and Tricks magazine even ran a monthly feature showing off players' submitted creations. Lucky number 5 was a game with a literal song in its heart, Parappa the Rapper. A musical rhythm game set to the tune of literally a flat dog and his flat onion-headed teacher, Parappa not only kicked the modern-day game genre into high gear, it proved you didn't need realistic graphics or bullets to make a grown gamer smile. With catchy tunes, amusing graphics, and the ability to freestyle in between the required beats, Parappa the Rapper provided gamers the beat from a truly different drummer. Closing out the bottom 7 entries is Crash Bandicoot 2. Naughty Dog's mascot and moneymaker follows the usual recipe for sequel making, but with all the right ingredients. Better graphics, new characters, fresh level designs, yada yada, brought the bright orange hero right back into the spotlight. Leading the first-party ad campaigns was the sure sign that Sony had found their one true mascot to carry the system, even if it wouldn't last forever. Which brings us to the top 3 games of 1997. Look, these kinds of lists are always cliche, and while I do my damnedest to keep them more unique and thought-provoking than other YouTubers, even I can't remove these last 3 from the list. They deserve every spot they got. While the final 2 choices almost came down to a fistfight with myself, no matter which one you prefer, it's going to be a great choice. So that said, the number 3 game of 1997 is Soul Blade. Namco's weapon fighting game, it was a literal call to arms for the fighting game genre. Not only could weapon-based fighting be balanced and look damn near arcade perfect on the PlayStation, Namco also proved that more was definitely better. With the inclusion of the story-driven Edge Master Mode, copious amounts of unlockables, 3 soundtracks, and almost perfect control, Namco had firmly locked the PlayStation into fighting fans' hearts and wallets. So, with a heavy heart and bracing for impact on the comments section, I will say that the second most important game of 1997 was Final Fantasy VII. A mammoth production with the costs and rendering time to prove it, 7 was the system seller to beat out every other system seller to date. Years of hype, impressive CG movies, heartbreaking plot points, one of the most iconic villains in gaming history, all solidified into the system's most diabolical release to date. While I gave the game a perfect score 20 years ago based solely on beating the Japanese version 3 times, in doing this list, certain problems arise with the American release that kept it from the top spot. The American version specifically has an atrocious translation, but worse, the game in general may have done more harm than good. After it came out, every company wanted to have their own Final Fantasy VII, and in chasing it may have forever damaged the genre as a whole. What was once the golden standard of taste, Japanese-style RPGs, are almost now regulated to Vita abandonware and the few retreads of the same tired series. While there are small exceptions to this, like Ni no Kuni and Square's own attempt at restarting Final Fantasy with 15, it's plain as day that the genre is losing out to Western and European RPGs in the modern era. With that said, the number 1 game of 1997 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. 20 years ago, Castlevania did something no one thought would fly on a 32-bit system. Take Super Nintendo-level graphics with minimal modern special effects, and rather than throwing flashy 3D graphics at the player, drown them in equipable items in one of the largest 2D playgrounds not seen since Super Metroid. Symphony of the Night was the sequel to Rondo of Blood, the fantastic Turbo Duo version of Castlevania that the Americas would not see until it got a small release on the PSP collection. Merging the gorgeous 2D sprite work with the obvious Metroid-inspired castle layout and wrapping it all in an ear-pleasing soundtrack with literal hours of classic-style gameplay could just not be beaten. This merging of Castlevania and Metroid, lovingly dubbed Metroidvania style by the fans, would have the opposite effect on future releases compared to Final Fantasy VII. 20 years later, the gameplay style is not only embraced by developers, but constantly being fine-tuned and improved. From the Tomb Raider reboot and Axiom Verge to Cave Story, Rogue Legacy, and a personal favorite, Guacamelee, Symphony set in motion a level platforming renaissance that has yet to be quelled. While the Castlevania series itself, just like Final Fantasy, has hit some rough patches in present day, there is no denying or ignoring the impact it made to generations of games to come since its release 20 years ago. Whew! 1997 was the absolute definition of here to stay when it came to the PlayStation's legacy. The following 2 years will end up providing most of the future greatest hits releases, feed the demanding appetites of almost every gamer in every genre, and pave the way for Sony's fevered PlayStation 2 launch in 2000. People always ask me why the original PlayStation is my favorite deck, and with this list and the next 2 years of releases, you're about to find out why. And that, my friends, close out the Living History Project for 1997. The site's already updated to mid-January for editions, and with our new schedule going into effect soon, there'll be a whole lot more on-site and on YouTube content headed your way. As always, thank you so much for joining me on this amazing journey. 2018 is the year of games I already own, and a whole lot of them are PlayStation. If you're watching this over the weekend, please have a safe, amazing New Year's, and if you're watching it after January 1st, I hope 2018 finds you safe, happy, and playing games to your heart's content. For the final send-off of 2017, I will see you next year, and as always, play, laugh, love. See you next year.